Hi everybody, Matt from K16 Synthetics. We're going to do an oil change today on a 2020 Freightliner S2RV chassis. This chassis is carrying an Entegra Accolade motor coach, and this will be the first oil change I've done on this. It has just about 5,000 miles on it. Getting her switched over all the AMSOIL. We did a couple weeks ago installed the AMSOIL Bypass Oil Filter, which you'll see here, and try to document as much of this oil change as we can. Doesn't look too hard, never done this truck yet, so we'll see what we get into, but it doesn't look like it'll be too difficult to do, and we'll keep you posted. And we'll go over some of the equipment that we have for this oil change. A creeper works nice to get underneath the truck. This is probably the most notable item for this oil change. This engine's oil sump holds somewhere around 5 gallons of oil. Not real sure exactly what the number is. Kind of hard to decipher what it is, but picked up this 8-gallon all metal rolling cart from Northern Tool. Right about $100 for this rolling cart. I think it'll make the job a lot easier. Otherwise we just kind of have our standard tools, and I've got roughly, I think, 26 quarts of oil on hand. Keep in mind, with this oil bypass filter that we put on this truck, that does add 2 quarts of oil capacity to the system. That filter is pretty large and holds 2 quarts on its own, so whatever the truck does hold from the factory, it will add 2 more quarts due to that oil filter. Okay, now we are underneath the truck and taking a look at the oil pan. I'd heard that there are 2 oil drain plugs on this, and that's kind of true. There is a plug on the side of the pan right here that actually is for an immersion oil heater, is what that port is for, but I have heard of people using that as an additional oil drain. I'm not going to be doing that, but I've heard of people using that. Here is the main oil drain pan, or drain plug for the pan. Just kind of give you an overall look underneath here. Not a lot of information on the web yet about the S2RV chassis, so I'll kind of look around under here for you. There's one of the fuel filters right there. Looks like there's our oil filter right up above us. Doesn't look like the most ideal placement as far as hoses and other stuff in the way go, but it doesn't look too bad either. Okay, so get some tools out here. Point out my old S&K toolkit that's handed down to me from my dad. Probably 50 years old, I'm guessing. But it looks like this takes just a 3/8 drive is what goes into that oil drain pan plug, or oil drain plug. So we'll get that in hand here, and we'll slide back under and see how that works. Okay. As expected, that does slide right in there. And not too terribly tight. Kind of fun to do with one hand and holding the camera and getting to a drain plug. One thing I did forget to do that I always like to do, we'll jump up top real quick and do this, is I like to take the oil fill cap off so that it has plenty of airflow to, not get a vacuum and let the oil flow as fast as it can. Okay, and there's the oil fill cap. That is the replacement cap provided by the AMSOIL Bypass Filter Kit that has the oil return line in it. So we'll undo this. And you'll see on the bottom side, it's got a return port. That's where the filtered oil returns to the engine, is right through there. So back underneath we go. Okay, we're back underneath. Try to get our oil pan as centered as we can and see what kind of a mess we can make here. Seems most every oil change I do winds up being quite a little bit messier than what I intended, but we'll see how this goes and see how it goes with the one-handed mechanic work. One-handed mechanic, one-handed videographer. We'll see how this works out. It's 2020, so probably not very well. Well, doesn't seem to be too bad. Oil's nice and warm. I didn't mention that, but I did warm up the engine to operating temperature before we started. Okay, we'll let this drain and be back in a minute. Okay, looks like we're pretty well done draining. So we will put the plug back in and get ready to change filters on this. We are going to change the bypass filter on this today. The reason being is this was the factory oil, so this is not AMSOIL that's in it. And I want to get the complete capacity changed out, or as much of it as I can. When we put the bypass filter on, we did fill it with 2 quarts of AMSOIL. So it did have some AMSOIL in it. Typically those filters, this is using the EABP 110 size filter, and that filter is typically good for around 70,000 miles or 2 years. So by no means is that filter ready to be replaced since we just put it in. And when we replace it this time, we'll get the total quantity of oil changed over to AMSOIL, and we'll plan on leaving that bypass filter in for 2 years, so that'll last for 2 oil changes, this one and then the next one, and then 2 oil changes from now, I guess, is when we'll change that filter again. So not typically changed this early in its life, but we're doing it because of the fact that it's not all AMSOIL in here. Okay, we'll now pull the AMSOIL bypass filter out. I did pre-loosen it, so that's why you'll see it kind of come off pretty easy. Let's get our oil pan positioned right under it. Looks like we're in pretty good shape there. And again, we'll try to do this one-handed. This filter is relatively heavy when it's filled with the additional 2 quarts of oil, so keep that in mind as you're taking it off one-handed. And actually, I think I'm going to stop the video and take care of this with 2 hands, and we'll be back in a second. Okay, we're back. That didn't go too bad. There's that filter draining into the drain pan. There's the filter mount. Kind of see up in it. So basically how this bypass filter works is through this line right here, goes back up this way. I'll take you up under so you can see. If you can't see real good from here, there's the top of the factory oil filter housing, and I'll get up above it. You can see it from up there too, but that filter housing from the factory, there you can see it right there. There's a plug in there, and that's where the supply line for the bypass filter draws its pressurized oil. There's a very small orifice up underneath there, and it's a very low flow, so you don't have to worry about the bypass filter causing a drop of oil pressure. It does maintain nice pressure. I noticed 0 change in pressure at all. I'm also monitoring oil pressure with a Bluefire Wi-Fi adapter, so I am actually seeing not just a gauge reading, but I'm seeing a numeric representation, and I've seen 0 change. So this line here, that's the return line. You'll see it just runs on up, and that's what goes back into that oil fill on the top. So that's it. It's a pretty simple system. I'm going to get the new filter prepped, and we'll get it installed. So here's the new filter. I've already taken it out of the box there, and as you'll see, it comes nicely wrapped in a plastic covering, and I'll get the cover off. I've got 2 quarts of oil ready to fill it. We strongly recommend pre-filling these filters so that it's not pushing a bunch of air through the system. But I'll get the plastic off and we'll pre-fill this. Okay, we're ready to start the pre-filling. I'll give you a quick little shot of this filter. And you see how this filter performs against, there are some other bypass filters on the market, just to kind of show you what the performance looks like of the AMSOIL against other bypass filters that are out there. A little more information about it. And back to that. Okay, so just simply take a quart of oil and add it in to the top. This will take two. Takes a little bit of patience to get them all in there, but it will take, it will hold 2 quarts altogether. There, it's getting pretty full. And I won't bore you with watching me fill these. We'll be back in a minute. Okay, we've almost got the full 2 quarts in. Got just a little bit. I can't really see that. Just a little bit left in this bottle, and a little bit of room left in the filter. We'll see if we can get some more in there. There we go, that's good enough. And then, as with any spin-on filter, you want to take a little bit of oil and make sure you get that O-ring lubricated. Then we'll take this and spin it on. Okay, I've got it started. And as we see down here in the directions, put a little bit of oil on the, or pre-fill it, I guess is the far one on the left. Pre-fill the filter, put a little oil on the gasket, and then tighten it down until it makes contact. And then +1 turn is what they call for on this one. So we're not anywhere close to contacted yet, so we will spin this on until we make contact. Looks like we're getting close, almost there. And there's contact. And the AMSOIL decal is facing pretty much back. So we will spin it on until that decal is all the way around to the back. Had to put the camera down for a second because I needed both hands to tie that, or just to tighten that down. And unfortunately, I'm by myself today. I don't have an assistant. He's at home playing his video games. Okay, so that's done. We will get this filter out of the way, and we will move on to getting back in there to the factory, the Cummins full flow filter, and get that one changed. Okay, we'll head back under here and see what we can accomplish with this oil filter. Something I kind of figured out while I was doing this too is, and for you other Accolade, Seneca, other S2RV based chassis people, I'm not as thin as I used to be, and with my creeper sliding in underneath the air dam, I was having just a little bit of trouble with my gut dragging just a little bit. So one thing I noticed doing this oil change is this air dam does sit low enough that on the creeper and with my belly I was having a little bit of dragging trouble getting under here. So while I was filling that oil filter, that bypass filter, I went ahead and lowered my front levelers a little bit and raised the front up a couple inches, and made a lot of difference. Made it easier to get up under here. So just a little tip I've found. And then something else, while laying under here too, I notice you can really see the brake linings very well. Obviously this coach is pretty new, so I would expect those to be pretty thick still, but kind of neat that you can see stuff like that while you're under here. Here's the ones over on the driver's side. Okay, so over on the passenger side of the engine, that is where the full flow filter is at. And I'm going to see if I can get up there with a filter wrench and get that thing loose and get it out of there. I'll be back. Okay, so trying to get at that filter from underneath proved to be not very doable. I removed the air box and got that out of the way. Can get a nice view up inside the turbo there too, if you're interested. But anyway, had to get to it this way, but it's easy to get to once the air box is out of the way. Okay, we've got the old spin-on oil filter, full flow filter out of the way. It's down there draining in the pan, and we will be installing our new, I'm using a Donaldson filter. I think they're a little higher quality. The P550 428 is the filter this uses. I'll do the same procedure with this one since it does sit with the mounting base facing straight up. I'm going to go ahead and pre-fill this filter as well. Okay, got the new Donaldson filter spun on in there. One thing I noticed about Donaldson's is the arrow that you see right there on the filter. There's an arrow every quarter way around, and every arrow is different from the other arrows, so you can keep track of where you're at as far as getting it one full rotation after touching. For example, this one has a square in the arrow. One of the arrows is solid. One of the arrows has a circle in it, and the other arrow has an arrow in it. So kind of nice that they put that on there for you so you can tell where you're at rotation wise. I'm going to get the air filter back in place and button back up, and then we'll put the oil in and start her up, make sure we don't have any leaks. Okay, now for the fun part, the final part. You get to put our oil back in. We'll be using AMSOIL's Signature Series Max Duty Protection 15W40. Kind of cool, these come in 2.5 gallon jugs, so you don't have a whole bunch of jugs to deal with. And we will get started on this. Okay, so we have 23 quarts in this engine right now. There's the 2.5 gallon jugs, so that's 5 gallons, which is 20 quarts. Plus the 3 quarts that we put in, 2 in the bypass filter, 1 in the full flow filter. So let's fire it up. I think we're probably a quart or two low is what we're going to turn out being. But let's start it up, let the oil circulate a little bit, and we will see what it says. We'll walk around and check for leaks on those filters, make sure they're doing good. Nothing leaking there. Don't see any leaks back there from the full flow. I'll let it idle for a few minutes and then we'll check the oil level. Okay, no leaks. Everything looks good. Ran it for a while to make sure there were no leaks. Just got done checking the oil, and kind of a pleasant surprise, but when I checked it, it was right at the full mark after adding 3 quarts, 2 in the bypass filter, 1 in the spin-on filter, and then the 2.5 gallon jugs, and it is right at the full mark. So looks like for this one, probably 21 quarts was what it would hold without the bypass filter kit installed. And with the bypass filter, it added 2 more quarts, so 23 quarts is the total fill on this truck. So we're done. I'm going to get cleaned up, buttoned up, and thanks for watching. If you have any questions, I am an AMSOIL dealer in the Midwest, located in Johnston, Iowa, and get in touch with me. I'd love to have your business. You can reach me at our website is www.k16synthetics.com. You can call me at 515 250-8689, or you can email us at info@k16synthetics.com. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. If you can follow me there, that would be great. Thanks.